In the quiet town of Havenwood, an elderly veteran, Art Finley, experienced a moment of public humiliation by a young biker. But what they didn't know was that Art wasn't just any old man. And his son, a decorated commander, heard how his father was treated. "Hello everyone, now we walk the same cracked sidewalk as an old man in a faded blue jacket, one that used to command salutes, now barely earning glances. His cane clicks with every step past the flower shop, past the grocery, past the door no one opens for him. It's Havenwood, where the pace is slow, and so, apparently, is memory. No one remembers the man behind the jacket anymore. But today, oh, today, they will. You probably won't survive this kind of fall, not because your bones will break, but because something else will, the part of you that believed people would still care. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Post your location and local time in the comments. Let's see how far this story travels. Now, relax. Maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get into today's story. It's mid-afternoon in Havenwood. You feel the sun pressing on the back of your neck as you walk beside Art Finley, veteran, widower, quiet man. You see the familiar, the squeak of the rusty mug sign, the chipped curb outside Rosie's diner, the circle of bikers always laughing too loud, parked diagonally like they own the block. You hear them before you see them, Jake's bark laugh leading the pack, spitting stories no one believes but everyone pretends to. Art moves carefully. Every step is measured, his right leg dragging ever so slightly from an old injury he never talks about. His Air Force jacket is clean but threadbare, the patch on the sleeve sun-faded to a ghost of blue and silver. His left hand holds a plastic bag with milk, canned peaches, and a tin of food for the neighbor's cat. You walk beside him when the moment happens, the one that turns silence into spectacle. Art's shoulder catches the wind. The wind lifts the hem of his jacket. The jacket grazes Jake's pristine Harley just enough to rock the mirror. Not a scratch. Not even a smear. But you know ego doesn't need damage to be provoked. Jake swings around. "Hey! Watch where you're going, old man." Art stops, turns, and lifts a hand slightly in apology. "Didn't mean to." The breeze caught it. Jake steps closer. "Breeze didn't park your arm on my bike. That's disrespect, plain and simple." Art is still. His eyes meet Jake's, not confrontational, just tired. "It was an accident." Jake's voice drops an octave. "An accident's when you trip. You touched my bike. That ain't nothing." The others around him chuckle, low, mean, and performative. Jake's doing a show now, and the crowd likes it. Jake steps into Art's space. You can feel the air tighten, like the town's holding its breath. You people think you get a free pass just 'cause you're old and dressed like a war museum. Art takes a small step back, but his cane taps awkwardly, and the weight shift is too fast. His balance teeters, his groceries swing. The bag rips. The cane slips from his hand. His body goes down slow like time is arguing with gravity. He hits the sidewalk with a grunt that feels louder than Jake's whole rant. The milk bursts. The peaches roll. The cat food clatters like a bell tolling something sacred. No one moves. A woman across the street, Doris, flower apron and everything, takes one step, then freezes. A couple with a stroller glance, then look away. The bikers murmur but don't kneel. Jake doesn't help. Instead, he mutters, "Told you to watch it." Art lies there, not crying, not pleading, just breathing hard. You see it, the confusion, the shame, the instinct to get up clashing with the reality that he can't, not easily, not quickly, not with all these eyes and none of them kind. The cane is inches away. The jacket sleeve is dirt-stained now. One peach has rolled to the gutter, it's condented like something survived a war. Art's hand goes to his chest, not for drama, but because it hurts. Something in the wrist, maybe the shoulder. He rolls, grimacing, trying not to let sound out. He gathers the bag with what dignity he can, folds the edges, tries to stand. Tries again, Still, no one moves. A phone rings from somewhere. Music blares faintly from the rusty mug jukebox. Life continues while Art doesn't. He finally gets to his knees, retrieves his cane with a wobble, and sits against the brick wall like that's where he meant to be all along. His breath is shallow. His eyes close. And in that moment, even the loudest town in the world feels mute. A child across the street says, "Mom, that man fell," but the mom shushes him. "It's not our business," she says, "but you know what? It should be." Art reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out a flip phone. The thing is scratched and ancient, but reliable, like him. He opens it with a click and scrolls past names until he hits one marked urgent. He presses. The ringing starts. It's brief, then he says, "Mark, it's Dad. I just could use a hand," is all. You hear nothing on the other end. Just the way Art's jaw sets, like the sound he is hearing is already shifting something somewhere else in the world. He ends the call. Pockets the phone. And waits, not for rescue. Not for revenge, just for someone to remember who he used to be. By the time the call ends, it's already moving, 1,000 miles away, in a secure operations center with screens flickering live feeds and red-lit maps. Commander Mark Finley doesn't hesitate. He hears the tremble in his father's voice, buried beneath that trademark stoicism, the kind men like Art wore like a second uniform. Mark hears what isn't said. The hesitation. The humiliation. And worst of all, the quiet. Mark's second-in-command asks, "Everything all right, sir?" Mark doesn't answer. Not immediately. His mind is already flying over deserts, skipping through airspace, diving across state lines. Then, calm as steel cooled in water, he says, "I need the secure vehicle prepped. Minimal team. I'll be off-grid for 48 hours. They know better than to ask." When Mark moves like that, it's personal. And when something's personal for Mark Finley, people either clear a path, or get gently, efficiently removed from it. You ride with him in silence, inside a black vehicle without markings, the kind used for emergencies or extractions. The man in the passenger seat is Major Thorne, Mark's oldest colleague. Not a friend in the easy sense, but the kind of man who's shared trenches of responsibility and knows when not to ask questions. Mark finally speaks, hours into the drive. "He fell." Thorne nods, waiting. "Some punk ran his mouth," Mark continues. "Dad brushed a bike with his jacket. That's all. Just fell. No one helped." "That's not a fall," Thorne says. "That's a push without hands." The car hums down the highway. Mark's mind doesn't rest. He replays memories, his father teaching him to drive in the open field behind their house. His father standing silent at his wife's funeral, holding his boy's hand so tightly it left no room for tears. His father helping veterans fill out complicated forms at town hall, never asking for recognition. Now this same man had to call for help, not from pride, but because the world forgot how to see him. Back in Havenwood, things are unsettled. Word spreads that something happened. Doris tells Rosie, who tells Sheriff Brody's deputy. Emily, the teenager who films everything, is reviewing shaky footage on her phone of the confrontation. Her voice, on the recording, says quietly, "Should I post this?" Art remains at home. He refused a hospital visit, said he just needed to sit. But his hand aches, his pride worse. The grocery bag is patched with tape. He sets the can of cat food on the neighbor's porch and goes inside without knocking. Hours pass. Then the vehicle arrives. It's not loud. It's not flashy. But it feels important. Like something has shifted under the town, something serious. Something official. People glance from porches, curtain slits widen, the doors open. Mark steps out, and the air changes. He's not in uniform, but the way he walks, he doesn't need one. It's in the bearing, the back straight, the eyes scanning with military precision. Not looking for threats, just taking stock. Thorne stays by the car. Mark doesn't need backup for this. He walks up to the house, knocks once, and enters after hearing his father's tired voice say, "It's open." Inside, the light is soft. A baseball game murmurs from the TV, volume low. Art looks up from his chair. His smile is small. Didn't expect you this fast. You called, Mark says simply. He kneels. Gently takes his father's hand. Let me see. The wrist is swollen. The scrape on his arm is raw. But the look in his eyes. That's what Mark really sees. That's the real damage. Mark stands. Tell me what happened. And Art does. Not with drama. Just the plain truth. Just a brush. A bike. He shouted. I stumbled. The groceries, they fell. He stood there like I owed him something. No one helped. Mark nods. Then he says, stay here. I'll be back. Outside, the street is quieter. The bikers are still there. Mark walks straight toward them. Jake is mid-laugh again, trying to pretend nothing happened. When he sees Mark, he instinctively puffs his chest. Can I help you? Jake says, already defensive. Mark stops 2 feet away. You had a run-in with a man today. Name's Arthur Finley. Jake shrugs. If that's the old guy with the cane, he was the one not watching where he was going. Mark doesn't raise his voice. Doesn't move. Let me be clear, he says. You disrespected a veteran. You humiliated an elderly man. You stood over him while he struggled. And not one of you did a thing. Jake scoffs. You his son or something? I'm his son, Mark says. He steps closer. His voice lowers. And I'm also a commander in the United States Air Force. I don't carry a badge or a weapon on me right now. But if I see one more smirk, hear one more excuse, or find out you so much as spit in the direction of that man again, I will bring the full weight of consequences down on your head, legal and otherwise. Am I clear? Jake doesn't respond. He can't. Then the sheriff's car rolls up. Sheriff Brody steps out, eyes flicking between Mark and Jake. I heard there was trouble, Brody says. Mark turns. There was. Now we're handling it. But I'd appreciate it if you took a formal statement. There may be a charge here, harassment of an elderly citizen. Possibly reckless endangerment. Brody hesitates, then nods. We'll take care of it. Mark walks away, not looking back. People are watching now. From windows, from sidewalks, not gossiping, watching, because they remember that jacket now. They remember the man who wears it. Inside Rosie's diner, Doris has cleaned a booth. Art sits with a bandaged wrist and fresh coffee. Mark enters, and Doris gives him a grateful nod. She leans over to whisper, we should have helped. I'm sorry. Mark just says, you still can. Emily slips into the corner, quietly uploading her video, and outside, Havenwood holds its breath, waiting to see what kind of town it's about to become. The thing about respect is that it often arrives too late, but not today. The next morning, you step outside with Mark, watching him help his father into the passenger seat of his old truck. The town hasn't quite decided how to face itself yet. There's a buzz of discomfort in the air, like everyone's realizing they forgot something important and aren't sure how to apologize for it. A quiet reckoning has begun. Mark drives slowly into town, not because of traffic. It's Havenwood, after all, but because he wants people to see. See who rides beside him. See the bruises on Art's wrist, the calm in his face, the dignity that never left. A few folks wave awkwardly. Some pretend to tie their shoes. Others nod, tentative, unsure. They park near Rosie's diner. It's quiet. Mark steps out, walks around the truck, and helps his father down. Art's cane taps softly on the pavement. Inside, Rosie's is warmer than usual. A few regulars lift their eyes. Doris has already laid out a cup of coffee at the corner booth. She doesn't say much, just rests her hand gently on Art's shoulder before heading back behind the counter. But before the steam can even settle on Art's mug, the bell above the diner door jingles. Mark glances back. Jake walks in. He's not swaggering anymore. He's not posturing. There's a stiffness in his shoulders, like someone walking into a courtroom. He hesitates by the door. Mark rises slowly, placing his napkin on the table. The room holds its breath. "I'm not here for trouble," Jake says, voice lower than before. "I just wanted to." He glances around, noticing the eyes on him. "Wanted to see if he's okay." Mark doesn't blink. "You didn't care yesterday." "I know." Jake shifts his weight. "That's why I'm here." Art looks up, expression unreadable. He gestures faintly toward the booth across from him. "If you've got something to say, say it. Sitting's easier on these old knees." Jake looks surprised but accepts the invitation. He sits across from Art, hands on the table, unsure where to begin. "I didn't know," Jake says finally. "Didn't know who you were. That you served." Art sips his coffee. "Would it have mattered?" Jake blinks. "I guess. Maybe." Mark stays standing, arms folded, just behind his father. Art studies Jake's face. "It shouldn't have mattered. You don't wait to find out if someone's a veteran before you decide whether or not to shove your ego down their throat." Jake frowns, clearly not expecting that kind of clarity. He tries again. "Look, I was out of line. Way out. I had a bad morning. Things at home, doesn't matter." I snapped. "I saw the jacket. Thought it was just some old guy trying to look important. That's on me." Art tilts his head. "And what do you see now?" Jake doesn't answer immediately. He's not used to silence like this. Not used to words carrying weight. "I see someone who didn't deserve that. And I see a lot of people who watched it happen and didn't move." Mark nods slightly behind him. Jake notices. "Look, I'm not good at this kind of thing," Jake says, fidgeting. "But I'm sorry. Really. You didn't deserve what happened. And if there's a way I can make it right, I'd like to try." Art leans back. He watches the younger man carefully. Then he says, "Come with me." Art gestures to the bench. "We built this when I was on the town council. Cost us more than it should have, because we argued over the stone." Jake reads a few names. "Did you know them?" "Every one." Art's voice softens. "Didn't matter whether they saw war or worked a radio tower stateside. They all signed the line. That means something." Jake says nothing. Just looks. Art finally breaks the silence. "You want to do something? Help me clean this place up every weekend. You and the rest of your crew. Bring flowers, rake leaves, make it look like someone remembers." Jake nods, slowly. "Yeah, I can do that." Art eyes him. "You sure?" Jake meets his gaze. "Yes, sir." That "sir" lands heavier than intended. Art chuckles. "Don't call me sir. I used to mop floors in the post office when I got back. Call me Art." From across the street, Emily films the scene with less stealth than she thinks. It's not invasive, more like a witness bearing proof. Sheriff Brody joins Mark on the sidewalk, sipping a cup of diner coffee. "You always roll into town with this much clarity." Mark smirks. "Just showing folks what accountability looks like when it wears a calm face." Brody nods. "You staying long?" "Long enough," Mark replies. Later that afternoon, Rosie's fills with a quiet murmur. Not loud. Not celebratory. Just people wanting to be around the right kind of gravity. Doris stands up from her stool and clears her throat. "I think we owe Arthur here more than a quiet booth," she says. "I think we owe him, and others like him, our attention. And maybe an apology." Applause isn't raucous. It's respectful. Jake, from the corner of the diner, says, "He's already given me more than I deserve." Art chuckles. "One step at a time." Later, Jake walks out, hands in his pockets, passing the bike he once defended like a throne. It's just metal now. Not a badge. Behind him, Havenwood exhales, and maybe, just maybe, begins to breathe a little deeper. By the time the sun sets that evening, the internet has already done what small towns rarely do quickly: spread the truth beyond Main Street. Emily's video goes live that night. It's not flashy. No filters, no dramatic music. Just raw footage of an old man on the ground, his cane a few feet away, groceries spilled like marbles, while a younger man looms over him with too much pride and not enough thought. Then the camera shakes, Emily had moved to a better angle, and cuts to a different image, Mark helping his father up, brushing dirt off his coat and turning to face the source of the disrespect with the kind of silence that makes your stomach twist. The caption is simple: "This is art." He served. He fell. Not because he was weak, but because we forgot to care. Within hours, it spreads, #RespectOurVets trends locally by midnight. By dawn, it's moving beyond Havenwood. Old classmates share it. Military spouses comment. A Vietnam vet from Wisconsin writes, "This is every small town in America. Seen it. Felt it." A teenager from Arizona adds, "I didn't even know peacetime veterans existed. We need to talk about this more." Back in Havenwood, people start showing up differently. Doris is the first. She arrives at Art's front door just after breakfast with a small bouquet of tulips and eyes that can't quite meet his. She doesn't give a speech. Just hands the flowers over and says, "I should have done something sooner." Art nods, accepts the gesture, and says, "Now you have." Next is Mr. Henderson, the retired schoolteacher. He calls Rosie's and says, "I want to host something. Not a parade, not a ceremony, just something real. Something where folks can say thank you without making it a performance." Rosie clears a corner of the diner that Sunday. No streamers, no flags, just tables of coffee, framed photos of veterans from Havenwood, some in uniforms, some in civilian clothes, some with dates, some with none. Mark stands in the back with a cup of coffee. He's not in uniform, but people feel the gravity he carries. They drift over to him in twos and threes. A dad asks how his son might join the service. A teenager asks if it's scary. An old woman thanks him for coming back. Just those words. Art sits in his usual booth, cane across his lap, and watches the town in a new light. Not fixed, but flickering toward better. Jake walks in a little late. His hair's tied back. No leather vest today. Just a plain black t-shirt and jeans. He nods toward Art, then moves quietly to a small group of older men near the back wall. He doesn't try to center himself. He just listens. After an hour, someone asks to say a few words. They ask Art. He's reluctant at first, always was, but eventually stands, leaning slightly on the table for support. "I don't need applause," he says. "Didn't back then, don't now. But I need to say something I've been carrying." The diner quiets. "I served during peacetime. No medals, no battles, no war stories. Just held a post, trained some younger men, and did my job. When I came home, folks didn't call me a hero. And that was okay. I wasn't one. But I thought we all agreed on one thing: respect. Not for the job, not for the uniform. For the person who wore it. That was the deal." A pause. Lately, it feels like that deal's gone quiet. No one blinks. I'm not here for revenge or viral videos. But maybe, just maybe, this week reminded us that respect doesn't need fireworks. It just needs people to notice. Soft applause. Honest, not coerced. Later, Art returns home to a letter waiting in his mailbox. It's from Jake. Inside, it reads, "Art, I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed you to know that I've thought about everything you said. About how I showed up in that moment. About what I forgot to see. I'm not trying to earn back my reputation. Just trying to be the kind of man who doesn't cause someone like you to fall again, ever. I'm going to show up to the memorial this weekend with some cleaning supplies. Hope you'll let me help. Thank you for your patience. And your example, Jake." Art reads it twice. He folds it carefully and places it between the pages of an old book, one he only reads on cold days. He doesn't rush to reply. Some changes don't need immediate answers. They need time. That weekend, Jake shows up with a rake, some gloves, and an old boombox playing low-country blues. A few of the bikers come, too. Not because he asked, because they saw the same footage and realized they didn't want to be the ones laughing in the background anymore. They trim the hedges, plant some new flowers. Mark joins them briefly, handing out bottled water, nodding at their effort without fanfare. Art watches from the bench, occasionally pointing out weeds they missed. By evening, the memorial looks reborn, not grand, just loved. Children ride by on bikes and shout, "Hi Mr. Finley." He waves. You realize something profound is happening, not just to Art or Jake or Mark, but to Havenwood. It's a town remembering its own soul, and it doesn't stop there. The local school prints out the transcript of Art's words at the diner. It goes up in the hallway under a laminated title, "Words from the Quiet Corner." The principal starts a program called Silent Salutes, where students can nominate everyday community members who served. No banners, just names read during morning announcements. Art's name is read the first week, no cheering. Just silence, and in that silence, respect. You never think the last chapter will begin with something as small as a morning breeze, but it does. The air is crisp, the kind that carries birdsong a little clearer and makes old bones ache a little less. Art steps out of his house, cane in one hand, jacket zipped halfway, and he notices it immediately, the difference. It's not the weather. It's the way people pause now. A young man jogs past, slows his pace, gives a respectful nod. "Morning, Mr. Finley." Art nods back. He doesn't always respond with words. He doesn't need to. His presence is enough now. People see him. At Rosie's diner, his booth waits with a small, laminated card placed by Rosie herself, "Reserved for Art Finley, one of our own." She pretends it's for convenience, but everyone knows. It's respect in plastic form. Jake walks in later, not quite at ease, but no longer shrinking from memory. He carries something today, not shame, but purpose. He's been volunteering twice a week at the community center. Not loud about it. Just shows up, sets up chairs for bingo nights, organizes donations for the elderly. He pushes grocery carts when no one's looking. Word spreads. Slowly. That's how real change does, but one thing still lingers, a conversation that hasn't happened. Art gets a call from Mr. Henderson one Friday. "Jake wants to talk," the old teacher says. "Not to explain, just to listen. You okay with that?" Art agrees. They meet the next day at the library courtyard, near the Korean War plaque that's barely legible anymore. It's quiet. Just birds, wind through the trees, and two men with nothing between them but a small iron table. Jake starts with nothing rehearsed. "I used to think respect was about earning it. Like points on a scoreboard," he says. "Didn't realize it's more about seeing someone. You were invisible to me that day. I looked at you and saw nothing I wanted to understand." Art's hands are folded, still. He doesn't jump in. Jake presses on. "My dad was never around. Said the service made him a ghost. I guess I spent a lot of years trying not to become him. And in doing that, I started disrespecting everyone who reminded me of him. That's not an excuse," Jake adds quickly. "But I needed you to know where I was coming from." Art finally speaks. "We all carry ghosts. The mistake is thinking yours gives you permission to make others disappear." Jake nods, eyes down. Art continues, softer now. "You didn't push me. But your words did. And for someone like me, who's walked quiet streets for a long time, those words hit harder than fists ever could." Jake looks up. "I'm sorry." A long pause, then "Carry that," Art says. "Carry it like a uniform. Not a weight. A reminder." They don't shake hands. They don't hug. But Jake leaves lighter, and Havenwood, slowly, continues to shift. A few weeks later, the mayor's office approves a small proposal. Nothing grand, just a memorial bench installed near the park's eastern trail, the one few people used because it led nowhere special. Now, it does. The bench is simple. Oak. Polished. And on it, a plaque reads, "In honor of the quiet ones, respect and remember." It's not Art's name on it. He didn't want that. He said too many people forget the ones who never made it back or never wore a medal, who served and then disappeared into ordinary life like mist over a lake. One day, a girl named Haley leaves a drawing taped to the bench. It's of an old man in a jacket, standing tall with a cane, beside a young man planting flowers. The caption scrawled beneath reads, "We see you now." And that's how things shift. You see it when Mark eventually leaves town again, mission completed, back to duty. He hugs his father longer than he used to. Leaves a framed photo of the two of them at Rosie's counter with a note that says, "Not all heroes wear medals." You see it when Jake helps organize a new program at the community center, Stories in Uniform, where veterans and young people sit together once a month and just talk. No structure, no agenda. Just a way to see each other. Art is the first guest. He doesn't talk about military drills or the protocols of peacetime service. He talks about the silence that comes after you serve. How it fills rooms and years until someone finally breaks it with a simple act of decency. By now, the story isn't about the fall anymore, it's about everything that rose after. It's about what happens when one man's dignity is honored, not because he demanded it, but because people chose to see it. The final scene fades out like this. Art walking that same stretch of sidewalk where it all started. Same cane, same jacket, but this time, people pass and smile. They nod. Some say his name. Jake rolls by on his motorcycle, slower now, more deliberate. He raises a hand in greeting, and Art raises his back. Not as an act of forgiveness, but as a quiet confirmation that dignity, once restored, doesn't need words to stay standing.